Let's think back to the 1980s. Games like Super Mario Bros. And The Legend of Zelda were already cult classics, giant pillars for all other games to aspire to hold their own against. And many games tried to copy that formula for success. The NES or Famicom in Japan is predominantly overrun with mediocre platformers just trying to ignite that same spark in players that the original Super Mario Bros. Did. But in 1990, Intelligent Systems would throw their hat into the ring with a tactical strategy game, a brand new IP that would soon become a staple for the Nintendo brand, and it would continue to gain entries even now in 2022. The game was called Fire Emblem. Although we wouldn't see it here in the States until almost over a decade after the series first launched in 1990, the series already had a dedicated fanbase behind it, most likely due to the critically acclaimed Famicom Wars games made by the same company. Me, like many others, first got a taste of the Fire Emblem series without even realizing it. I remember playing Super Smash Bros. Melee, desperately trying to unlock all of the characters with my older brother, and all of a sudden, these two strange characters I didn't even know existed wanted a piece of me and my Captain Falcon.
Yes!
Their names? Marth and Roy. But who were these mystery characters, and how I had never even heard of them? Let's go back to Japan in the year 1990. With the coming of the Super Famicom set to release in November of 1990, Intelligent Systems would soon release what would be their biggest IP, just 7 months prior, on April 20th, 1990. The game was titled Fire Emblem, Shadow Dragon, and the Blade of Light. As I said earlier, in the past we had platformers such as Mario, Kirby, and Kid Icarus, but we also had action games such as The Legend of Zelda and Metroid. But rarely would we find games that were in the tactical RPG category. Nowadays it's common to find games that follow a similar formula to Fire Emblem. Games like Advance Wars and Final Fantasy Tactics. These games weren't as common as they are today though. If you had a PC in the 80s, you had access to games such as Ultima 3 and Tunnels of Doom. But for players playing on consoles, there was a limited amount of options. In case you are new to the Fire Emblem series, let me explain the basics. Each chapter is played out like a match of chess. For example, if you start with a fixed amount of allies, or units as they're called in Fire Emblem, and the leader. Depending on the game, it might be Roy, Ike, Marth, Chrom, etc. And you face off against a fixed amount of enemy units. More often than not, the enemy units will always outnumber you, which is where a lot of the strategy comes into play. Do you send a weaker unit closer to the front in order to take out one enemy unit, where they will more likely get overrun, or continue to feed your already strong units more XP, and save your weaker units? When your leading character is killed in combat, the game ends, and vice versa. Take out the enemy commander, and the victor is yours. That chapter's over. Of course, in newer titles there's the weapon triangle, but for the first few entries, the weapons themselves just had special attributes when used. Bows were and always have been super effective against flying units. Axes and lances, while the most powerful, are also the least accurate, and swords being weaker but less susceptible to missing attacks. Now that we have the basics covered, let's get into the actual history of the game itself. Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light was directed by Keisuke Terasake and produced by Gunpei Yokoi. It follows the story of a young prince of the Kingdom of Altea, whose name is Marth. Marth is a descendant of the great hero Henri, who slew a great evil known as Medeus, the Dark Dragon. We learn of a raging war between Marth's home kingdom of Altea and the neighboring kingdom of Dulhir. Sadly for the young prince, we learn his sister Elise has been taken hostage and his father killed in the battle for their home by the dark priest Garneth. This leaves the kingdom of Altea extremely unstable, and eventually it falls into the dark priest's hands. Marth flees to the kingdom of Talus, where he begins his journey as an exile who will fight to resecure his homeland. Sadly for many, including myself who is a big advocate of the series, this game is still relatively hard to get your hands on. Unfortunately, unless you had purchased the game from December 2020 until March 2021, you're kind of out of luck. They've removed it from the eShop entirely. But I do suggest that if you ever see this game out and about, definitely pick it up. I do not think that you'll be disappointed. I could go on and on about the game and how it plays out and what happens in it, but I'd like for you guys to one day find out. I just wanted to give you a little bit of insight on how and why the game was made, and a little bit of synopsis on the story. just to give you a little bit of a taste. If you guys like this video, feel free to subscribe. I'll be doing every single Fire Emblem game with a little bit of a history, a little bit of synopsis of the story, and then I'll be moving on to other series that I really enjoy. After Fire Emblem, I plan to do Zelda. So if you guys are looking forward to those, tell me how I can do better. Tell me how I can improve, what you would like to see, and, all that good stuff. So until next time, I'll see you guys later.